The hose was hissing again. At first, I thought maybe it was just the wind catching the line. But at 11:47 p.m. under a full moon and a sky that looked like it was holding its breath, I realized something far weirder was going on. My water bill had nearly doubled. The HOA had banned all daytime watering. And yet somehow, Melanie Granger's garden still looked like it belonged in a magazine titled Better Homes and Hypocrisy. I leaned back in my patio chair, nachos in one hand, binoculars in the other, and whispered to myself, this woman is about to learn what happens when you mess with someone who grew up with 3 brothers, a toolkit, and a petty streak longer than Route 66. It all started innocently enough. Or, well, as innocently as anything can in a neighborhood run by a woman whose license plate literally reads Rule as 1. Melanie wasn't just the HOA president, she was the self-appointed landscaping tyrant of Willowbend Estates. The kind of person who kept a ruler in her gardening apron to measure grass height and once issued a $50 fine because someone's Halloween pumpkin lasted into November. We all tolerated it. Some feared her. Some rolled their eyes. I mostly ignored her until I couldn't. The city had issued its 3rd drought warning, and the HOA responded by mandating strict watering rules, twice a week, early morning only, no exceptions. The rest of us complied. My lawn went from green suburban pride to crunchy tan disappointment in under a week. But Melanie's garden? It looked like she had angels watering it by hand. Her hydrangeas glowed. Her roses flourished like it was spring in France. Her tulips perked up like they had never known a day of thirst in their plant lives. At first, I assumed she was cheating somehow, maybe hauling in bottled spring water or bribing the HOA inspector, though, of course, that would have been herself. I didn't connect the dots until I got my next water bill. Triple my normal rate. That got my attention. I walked my property line looking for a leak. Nothing. Checked my irrigation timer. Called the water company. No error, sir, the rep told me. Usage is accurate. And that's when I noticed the hose. It didn't coil the way I'd left it. I stared at the end of the line and saw something new. Someone had added a splitter. One side went to my spigot. The other side snaked through my hedge, right into Melanie's yard. I stood there, slack-jawed. She was siphoning my water. Not subtly, not cleverly, just boldly like a suburban pirate with a garden hose instead of a sword. It wasn't just the theft that burned me. It was the hypocrisy. This was the same woman who once cited me for unauthorized wind chimes because they didn't match my siding. The same woman who rang my doorbell at 6:12 a.m. on a Tuesday to inform me that my garbage can had been visible from the street for longer than 10 minutes. And now she was stealing my water while enforcing the very rule she was breaking. I could have gone straight to the HOA board, but considering she ran it like a dictatorship complete with color-coded fines and monthly newsletters that read like war memos, that would have gone nowhere. Instead, I decided to wait. Watch. Document. That night, I brought out my lawn chair, a bag of chips, and a GoPro duct-taped to a tiki torch. And just like a raccoon who's memorized your trash pickup schedule, Melanie struck. At exactly 11:47 p.m., she emerged from the shadows like a polyester ghost. Matching gloves, oversized visor, hose in tow. She dragged it under a gnome, clipped it to a hidden drip system, and slunk back inside like it was just another day in her criminal gardening empire. I checked the timestamp. 11:47 on the dot. Probably scheduled it like a mob hit. I didn't sleep that night, not out of anger, but out of inspiration. The next day, I drove to a hardware store 2 towns over. The kind of place where no one asks why you're buying a gallon of vinegar, 3 bottles of dish soap, industrial-strength blue clothing dye, 2 garden-grade check valves, and a glitter-infused car wash additive. That night, I assembled the mix like a backyard mad scientist. A little dye, a little dawn, a little foam, a lot of sparkle. I set up a pressure-safe garden sprayer and backfed the whole glittery soup into her stolen line. For good measure, I left a small sign next to the hose. Do not touch decorative. The next morning, I heard the scream before I even got to the window. A high-pitched HOA-issued shriek echoed through the neighborhood. I peeked out and saw Melanie in her robe, standing in the middle of her prized garden, holding a rose that now looked like it had been dipped in a toxic unicorn latte. Foam clung to the petals. Glitter shimmered under the rising sun. Her expression was a perfect blend of rage, disbelief, and existential dread. I took a sip of coffee and waved. She didn't wave back. Later that day, she stormed up my walkway, dragging her hose like it was a wounded animal. What did you do? She hissed, holding up a blue-stained glove. My flowers. My soil smells like vinegar and dish soap. I tilted my head innocently. That's odd. My hose has been acting up too. Maybe someone's been messing with it. She opened her mouth and closed it. Because she knew. I knew. And I wasn't backing down. I'm filing a complaint, she seethed. With who? Yourself. I smiled. Her eye twitched. This isn't over. She spun on her heel, trailing sparkles in her wake like an angry garden fairy. That's when I knew I hadn't just pulled a prank. I had declared war. 2 days passed. No retaliation. No fines. No HOA-wide memo about the dangers of vigilante horticulture. But her yard told another story. The roses were still blue. The hydrangeas now looked like they belonged on a Lisa Frank trapper-keeper. Foam lingered on the soil. Her petunias had taken on a mysterious seafoam glow. And the glitter it was everywhere. It stuck to everything like it was made of vengeance. It was beautiful. But I wasn't done. What she didn't know was that the blue mixture had been the mild version. A beta test. I had a stronger recipe in mind. This one involved beet juice for that deep red. Is this plant bleeding? Look, cornstarch for extra gunk, heavy-duty denim dye for richness, and a biodegradable glitter that sparkled like a disco-themed oil spill. I added a dash of banana extract just to mess with her sense of smell. It didn't need to make sense. It just needed to be weird. At 2 a.m., I deployed the mix. By sunrise, I was stationed at my window, coffee in hand, watching. She emerged in her gardening gloves, blissfully unaware. Turned the hose on. The foamy concoction blasted out like Ascension smoothie. It hit her gloves, her sneakers, her cat who bolted across the yard like a sparkly torpedo. Her garden looked like a crime scene from a children's book. I couldn't hear her words, but I saw her lips and knew they were not suitable for HOA documentation. That night, she called an emergency board meeting under her pergolino draped with tarps in a sad attempt to hide the chaos. I wasn't invited, of course. But Phil, one of the board members, soft-spoken, early retired, generally unbothered, slipped a manila envelope onto my doorstep. Inside, printed meeting minutes and a note. We're sick of her too. Keep going. P. That was when I knew this wasn't just revenge anymore. This was a movement. 2 days later, Melanie tried to host a garden showcase event. She'd replanted, covered up the damage with burlap, even imported nursery plants to stage like they were hers. I attended naturally, wore a smile, complimented her water-smart hydrangeas, and planted a GoPro inside a decorative gnome next to her hose. That night, I uploaded the footage to the neighborhood Facebook group. I circled the hose splitter in red and included timestamps. For good measure, I dropped it on Reddit's r/entitled people. It exploded. Comments rolled in. Wait, is that our HOA president? My water bill went up too. Plot twist, she hydrates her roses with stolen tears. Melanie tried to spin it. Fired off an all-caps email accusing trolls of spreading misinformation. Too late. The neighborhood was talking. Phil messaged me. The board was preparing a vote. Then I got a certified letter from the city. Turns out the vines she planted along our shared fence were kudzu. Invasive. Illegal. And worse, they crept into a protected green belt buffer. She was fined. Publicly. Her power began to crack. And finally, one glorious morning, the vote happened. The meeting was packed. Melanie stood at the front, laminated rules in one hand, fury in the other. Phil opened the floor. She launched into a rant. I am the HOA, she shouted. And then, the vote. 8 in favor of removal. 1 abstention. 0 support. She stared around the room like she'd just been betrayed by her own cult. She grabbed her binder, muttered something about lawyers, and stomped out. She paused as she passed me, glared at the clear plastic bin I'd labeled Exhibit A, hose, and then she was gone. Phil became interim president. First order of business. Repealing Melanie's nonsense rules. Second, water wars, the ceasefire, our first ever HOA-sanctioned block party. Third, a new regulation, no unauthorized water access. Ever. Weeks passed. Her house sat quiet. Then the for sale sign appeared. I almost bought it. Just for the symbolism. Instead, I threw a yard sale. Labeled one table Melanie's water collection. Neighbors came by. Laughed. Shared stories. Someone gifted me a trophy shaped like a faucet. The plaque read, Water Rights Defender 2025. I keep it on the mantle. The new neighbors? Young couple. Rescue dogs. Wild energy. Told me they're installing a koi pond. I warned them the ground had a colorful history. They just smiled. Sounds fun. Now the hoses are locked. The vines are gone. The glitter's faded. The peace is real. And sometimes when I water my flowers legally, I smile and remember. Melanie thought she was dealing with a pushover. She never expected glitter. She never expected science. And she sure as hell never expected a neighborhood ready to rise. In the end, she ran out of rules. And she ran out of water to steal.